tonight. Alright! We're gonna have a TV party, alright! Tonight! We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Everybody's gonna hang out here tonight! Alright! We'll pass out on the couch. Alright! Tonight! We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Don't talk about anything else. We don't wanna know. We're dedicated to our favorite shows.
And tonight, our favorite show is She-Ra, Princess of Power, and the Princesses of Power. Brought to you by the good people at Filmation, Mattel, and Netflix. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly unmortified Mr. Mark Radledge, and joining me tonight is Alexis Hana from Honeysuckle Rose Creations. How you doing tonight, Alexis?
Doing quite good. It's nice to actually hear my name without you being, massacred or you having to pronounce it so that Amazon Echo doesn't get, agitated.
I promise nothing for the rest of the show.
Oh, I know.
So, as I like to do at the top of these TV parties tonight, I threw it out there to talk about She-Ra. You answered the call. What made you want to talk about this tonight?
I guess I'm just really intrigued by the wave of nostalgia that's coming back into this new time and age. She-Ra, it's funny. I know that I watched She-Ra growing up. I know that I played with the dolls, but I have no memory of it whatsoever. It's like I know it was part of my childhood, but I cannot recall a single part of it. At least that was until I caught Lindsay Ellis's analysis of it a couple of years ago when she took a look at the multi-parter in which He-Man and She-Ra when they first crossed over, and when she as the character was introduced, which is actually quite an interesting video. I did like it. It did make me laugh. So when I saw that they were bringing it back, plus with the new animation style that we've really seen with Avatar, Legend of Korra, and Voltron, I was very intrigued to see where they were going with this. So
I was a big He-Man fan when I was a kid. I think it was an after-school show. So I would come home, watch He-Man. I had a bunch of the figures. I had Castle Grayskull. Didn't have whatever Skeletor's lair was, though. That bothered me. But excuse me. But I was big into He-Man, and then She-Ra, in my little kid mind at the time, was just kind of the girl version of He-Man, and I watched that too for a little bit. But it definitely, with all of its pink colors and whatnot, it definitely screamed, "This is for girls." So I don't know how long I stuck with it. But and in all honesty, I'm not entirely sure I would have watched this new iteration of it, except that it. When they announced that they were doing it and that it was going to be gay positive, among other things, I was like, okay, well, this is news. So let me check this out and see what all the hubbub's about. And now, as it turns out, the other reason why I wanted to watch it was I wanted to see if my daughter would be into it. I actually showed her the original He-Man and She-Ra when they were on Netflix, which they are now leaving Netflix, boo-hoo. Mm-hmm. But a couple of Christmases ago, we actually binge-watched a bunch of He-Man and She-Ra before we went out for Christmas. And, my kids liked them pretty okay. So I thought, okay, well, they liked Voltron. Let's see how they do with She-Ra. Turns out my daughter loved this show. In fact, apparently she was rewatching it. We binge-watched it together, finished it up, and then she started watching it again today. So... she's big into, Glitter Force and stuff like that. I don't know if you know what Glitter Force is. But,
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so she definitely tends to go in that direction. So that's what brought us here tonight, and we'll have ourselves a conversation about the show itself, but also the news kind of surrounding it. I can't really say it's even controversial. I don't know if it's really upset anyone. It just it's out there, and as I said before, it's presented as, at least to one degree or another, gay positive. And I guess that would be upsetting for some people. I think it's, fine.
Yeah, the fact is that there are so many shows out now that have portrayed themselves as feminist icons and gay friendly that honestly, I think the shock of it is quickly losing momentum unless you focus yourself towards, for lack of a better word, anti-gay.
Right.
Yes, there were a few articles published about Natasha and Spinnerella and the prom episode and such. But the fact is that these articles are getting published on smaller and smaller, much more conservative than Fox News kind of publications. And in general, they're just not having the big, oh my God, what are they thinking that we would have seen even 5 years ago?
Well, I'll tell you this. I think you're right, but I also think it's because it's I don't know if marginalized is the right word, but, Netflix follows that long tail of, millions and millions of users with the exception of a few shows in small categories. So, She-Ra might have its followers, but we're not talking, a worldwide phenomenon here. Give Elsa a girlfriend. Watch what happens. Frozen 2 comes out. She has a girlfriend. Oh, you'll see articles. You'll see lots of things. But we'll jump off that bridge when we get to it.
I guess there is some truth to that. Yeah, I think if they do something like, you actually are right. I do remember there being a bigger outcry from the trailer shot in Finding Dory, in which they thought they were seeing a baby with two mothers, which frankly amounted to absolutely nothing in the movie. It was just a weird shot that they chose in the trailer. Mm-hmm. And that got a bigger reaction than this. So, yeah, maybe you're right that it's not as big of an audience, or not reaching as big of an audience as the ultra-conservatives are freaking out about.
Well, just to put a button on this particular subject, and then we can talk about the cartoon. And if you'll remember in the live-action Beauty and the Beast, you had, what was Gaston's friend who was played by? LeFou. You had LeFou dancing with a guy, and people were ready to burn down the theaters.
This actually does bring up one of my previous podcasts with you. We discussed the chilling adventures of Sabrina, and I mentioned how freaked out I was that the ultra-conservatives hadn't, launched a torches and pitchforks war against it for essentially having a show about the Church of Satan. And now that you bring this up, I'm starting to think, yeah, maybe it's just because Netflix isn't reaching the realms of those that would be easily offended by this.
Yeah.
Maybe, we look at Netflix now as the purveyor of the new media. They get more TV shows, they get more movies, but maybe they're not reaching as wide of an audience as we think.
Netflix is not Disney. Here's the thing. Netflix doesn't have the we're marketing to children aspect on it. It's we're a purveyor of online material. Anyone can use Netflix. Now, the fact that there's stuff for children, but there's also nanny blockers on it. It's a whole other argument when you're talking about Netflix. Disney markets to children. And
I should also add, I am not in the fan of the ultra-conservatives. I just grew up in Kansas City, Bible Belt, USA. Yeah. So it's more common for me to look around and see, oh, yep, and there go the conservatives losing their shit again.
Right.
So I'm not ultra-conservative. I just happen to think it's very bizarre when the ultra-conservatives do not freak out.
Sure. But like I said, just to put an end to this for the time being, when Disney colors anywhere outside of the strict conservative view of family, and because Disney has such a wide and far reach, that's when people go insane. You can get away with a lot more on Netflix because Netflix isn't there isn't a Netflix for children kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But anyway,
maybe we can also just assume that a lot of ultra conservatives don't have Netflix.
That's entirely possible. So She-Ra and the Princesses, see,
there goes. There it's starting, folks.
Was developed by Noelle Stevenson, produced by DreamWorks. It was, I believe, 13 22-minute episodes. 13. And it basically centers around Adora, who will eventually find the Sword of Power and turn into She-Ra. And she starts out as a as an officer in the Horde. She ends up running afoul of two of the Resistance people, whose names are... Let's see if I can find them here.
Glimmer and Bow.
Yes, Glimmer and Bow. Glimmer is the Princess of Bright Moon. Very Indian sounding. So we have Glimmer and Bow, and they show her what the true intent of the Horde is, what the Horde is really all about. Adora's been had. And so the first arc of the 13 episodes is Adora adopting and coming to grips with being She-Ra and turning on the Horde and all of what that means. She has a friend in Catra, and we'll talk about their relationship a little bit later. But Catra is loyal to the Horde, if for no other reason than it's just a place to be. She doesn't seem to be loyal to the Horde in philosophy as she does in just inertia.
There's nowhere else. Yeah, it's more like there's nowhere else I could go. I might as well stay here. I don't believe Catra believes that she would be accepted by Bright Moon if she did turn like Adora's. And it's interesting because, again, the original story arc was the exact same. Adora fought for the Horde. It wasn't until she actually ventured outside the camp and saw the suffering that everyone was going through and realized, oh my God, I've been lied to. But I do really like that they give more character development to Adora. She doesn't just immediately, in the original 80s one, Adora comes back and she's like, you lied to me. You guys are evil. And it's just done. This one is Adora kind of going back and forth a little bit. She's been raised to believe this truth her whole life. And anyone would be kind of just soul shattered to find out that something they've been raised with, something they believe their whole life, is in the wrong. And I think the Netflix show does a much better job of capturing that.
Yeah, I would agree. I actually didn't remember that she was initially part of the Horde. I remember very little of that show. So that's the first arc. The second arc is uniting all of the disparate princesses around the realm. A lot of the princesses have decided to just take, to close their doors and hope the Horde doesn't bother them. Essentially, is their philosophy. She kind of goes on a campaign of uniting these princesses. By the way, Vela Lavelle as Mermista, my kid's favorite princess. She thought she was hilarious.
Princess Apathy.
Yes, she just thought she was great. But yeah, they have a couple of episodes dealing with her uniting these princesses and against the Horde, bringing them back into the fold. You have a later arc of Glimmer being stricken with some sort of illness, and Adora trying to learn more about what it is to be She-Ra so that she can help her and heal her. And then there's the final battle with the Horde and what that means. And along the way, we have my daughter's second favorite princess, who she was very sad, turned to evil, which is Entrapta.
Yeah. Entrapta was kind of fun. She's just so, I don't know what the word, quirky. She's so quirky.
Yeah, I enjoyed her as a character. And it was funny because I was talking to my daughter about this. I said, Entrapta doesn't necessarily turn to evil, as she's, her one true love in life is science, technology. This is being a part of the Horde gave her access to the the runes,
something like. Personally, I don't think Entrapta's really gone evil. I believe that she's just too enthralled with what she loves doing to just kind of come to the realization, oh wait, I'm on the wrong side.
Right.
She's almost just like someone who's gotten so into their hobby that they don't realize what the world is around them anymore. And I have a feeling that because the show has been picked up for another season, I have a feeling that Entrapta will be returning to the side of the good guys.
Yeah, she gets through the Horde. She is given access to rune stones, and there's all this technology. We first see this in the character of Shadow Weaver. But Shadow Weaver is only scratching the surface of what these runestones can do. Entrapta figures out what more they can do with these runestones, and so she garners the favor of Hordak, and kind of becomes a unwitting ally against the resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, along the way, Catra supplants Shadow Weaver as one of the leaders of the Horde. They learn what they can do with the rune stones, and that kind of sets up season 2, where Hordak and the Horde and his minions are seeking to amplify their power with the rune stones and have another go at the princesses, and they will continue to ward off the Horde's attack. So that's pretty much the show in a nutshell. I really like this.
I would say part of what really got me into the show is I just wanted to know, how are they going to deal with some of these names? Because as much as we all loved He-Man and She-Ra as a kid, let's face it, they were the laziest at naming their characters.
Well, I was just looking at one of the characters in here. One of them is called Castaspella.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, how do you make that sound legit? I was sitting there going, are they actually just going to play it straight, or are they going to be breaking down? It's like, who the hell names their child Castaspella?
Yeah, that seems a bit over the top, but you know what? It's a kids' TV show. I'll allow it.
I stand by what I said, though. Lou Schreiber was the laziest when it came to naming his characters.
Well, God, if you remember the old He-Man figures, what'd you have? Like Trapjaw, Ramhead,
Many Faces.
Yeah, Manny Faces.
I love that at the exact same time.
Beast Man,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Well, oh God, Evil Lynn. That was the other one.
I remember, actually, there was that He-Man series that came on in I can't remember if it was the late 2000s. I remember watching that, and I was like, and I caught that. I was like, wait, her name is Evil Lynn? Who thought that was a good idea?
So, okay. Let's just break this down into arcs here. The first couple of episodes dealing with basically the introduction of characters. Let's talk about our lead here. What did you think of Amy Carrero as Adora / She-Ra, the fallen general who comes to the aid of the resistance and adopts this? I love the way everyone else reacts to it. It's like it's not everybody that turns into an 8-foot Amazon woman.
Yeah, again, I like that they really dealt more with the character arc of what she's going through, with the idea of betraying everything she's been brought up with. She doesn't have a family outside the Horde. She is essentially how would you feel as a teenager being told that your mother and father, I don't know, were Nazis, for lack of better terms? And you suddenly realizing that everything they taught you about Nazism is bad. It's just a very interesting way to look at how the mind is molded by our perception of what's around us.
What I liked about the first couple of episodes was, I think the show succeeds or fails in the beginning on the relationship between Glimmer and Adora. Because because Glimmer rides that line in the beginning of being obnoxious and relatable. You get the fact that she is firmly entrenched in the beliefs of the rebellion, and she wants to do right by the rebellion, but she also wants to impress her mom. She wants to prove her worth. She's got a lot of internal stuff going on. And then in walks Adora, who she's been taught to see as the enemy, and then she's sort of thrust into this position of, she's not the enemy, she's this warrior goddess come from, heaven to aid you in your quest to rid yourself of the Horde. And Glimmer doesn't, it takes a while for Glimmer to really accept that. It took her a little bit to go like, okay, this twists my entire worldview around, but we're gonna go with it because clearly it's the right move. But I don't necessarily have to like it in the beginning. Bo was a little bit more like, oh, cool, we're the best friends club now. He was definitely, I don't want to call him comic relief, but he definitely took the tension out of a lot of scenes.
He was Sokka 2.0, just say it.
Okay. But I actually didn't think I would like Glimmer as a character, but after a while, I as I got used to her and I saw her point of view, I'm going to be careful how I tackle this. I like the way she's drawn.
That is an interesting point. That in the original '80s series, all of the women were drawn as gorgeous model figures. I mean, it was the '80s. Every woman on the show was either an old hag or stunningly beautiful.
Right.
There's a running joke from the original series that Glimmer and her mother look like they're probably about the same age. Because, again, they were going to make the queen look ugly. But they had no idea how to draw. So it's like you're either a young child, a beautiful woman, or Madame Raz.
I was just saying, you want ugly, they just should have hired Rankin and Bass. Because if there's nothing they can't do, they can produce an ugly character.
Yeah, very true on that.
Go ahead.
But yeah, this is something I've noticed more with shows like Steven Universe, that we're seeing a pull away from the traditional drawing of women characters as all being gorgeous model-esque figures. We're seeing a lot more body types, a lot more variations in that. You have Glimmer, who has kind of a stocky, tweenish build. I'd say I don't think she is fat, but she looks like, but she's not skinny.
No.
And then you have someone like, we were just talking about it, the Flower Princess.
Mm-hmm.
Perfuma, that was it.
She looked like an average girl.
Yeah, but she was much more waif-like, much thinner. Again, a little hard to tell. She's wearing very baggy clothing, but she appears to be more waif-like.
Then you have Frosta, who basically looks like an Eskimo. You have Mermista.
Who also, again, not fat, but not thin. She's got much thicker arms and a much more sturdy build.
I was going to say, they made a couple of the girls look like Native. There's a Native American aesthetic to this show, which I don't think I put my finger on until we were just sort of talking about body types and such. But like Mermista had a kind of native build to her. You had the Eskimo character in Frosta. Glimmer had. I wouldn't necessarily say she looks native, or has a lot of native traits to her. And when I say native, I mean Native American. But but her dress was definitely was screaming Native American. It screamed like half the girl mall store justice, half Native American.
Well, he also wonders if that's an attempt by the creators to branch out, because the original She-Ra, they were not only all model-like, they were all white.
Right.
So I think this was the show's attempt to just say that, yeah, not every girl is going to look like that. And this is something we have really seen an increase of in shows nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen the teaser for the new Thundercats show, which I'm just going to say looks like garbage, but if you've seen that, Catra, who has always been portrayed as this gorgeous female body, has the build of a tomboy with absolutely no curves whatsoever. This is something we've never seen before.
Just a point of fact, Thundercats being a really good example. The original Thundercats, you had a couple of different looking guys. Lion-O and Tigra looked somewhat similar, but then you had the Puma character who was more of a stocky build, and then you're right, you have Chitara, who looked like a model. Now, granted, she was also supposed to be a fast running cat, so I suppose making her heavy set would have gone against the grain there, but
exactly.
But even so, you have an array of different guys, one type of girl. So I see the point in going out of your way to saying, hey, look, it's 2018. There are a variety of shapes of women. Let's be representational.
Wrong year, my friend.
Huh?
Wrong year.
2019. Well, it came out in 2018. Listen, you.
Sorry. But again, part of me also wonders if this is just copying a little bit of what we've seen off of Steven Universe, because in my opinion, that was the first show to really expand how you could draw female figures. And I've seen a lot of that in the cosplayers at various conventions. I see women who do not have very small builds are embracing these characters because they look like them now.
Right.
And they love that. And whether or not the people who did this new She-Ra series intended to copy Steven Universe or not, there's no question that they saw this as a smart marketing move that would definitely get them a lot more attention. of course, there was still the people who bitched on the internet about how come She-Ra doesn't have breasts, to which everyone said she's a teenager. Oh my God, get your head out of the gutter. But I like to think these are also the people who complained about the set pictures of Captain Marvel wondering why Carol Danvers looked like she had a flat ass.
Or were you on the show where we talked about why Captain Marvel isn't smiling?
I can't remember, but I know it's come up once or twice.
No matter what the guys look like, it's okay. But God damn it, Carol Danvers, smile when you're up there. Look pretty.
Black Widow didn't smile either. Tell him to shove a pineapple up it.
Well, I'm looking at the comparison pictures of She-Ra from 85 and She-Ra of 2018. You're supposed to be an Amazon warrior princess. You probably shouldn't have your tits hanging out. I'm just going to go ahead and say, running around with your cleavage in the monster's face doesn't really help you. Having a full frontal breastplate, just in case you get run through, is probably a better idea. I'm just saying, folks. Like, why doesn't she have breasts? Jesus Christ.
I'm just personally happy they gave her shorts because, frankly, that's something I've never understood is women in these shows running off into battle wearing short skirts. It's like, sorry, just because Sailor Moon knew how to animate that crap properly does not mean it's functional.
No. She has the right look for somebody who's going to be running around swinging a sword. I mean, if anything, she's a little underdressed, but we'll forgive her wearing proper plate armor for the fact that she's also magical.
When in doubt, say it's magic.
That's right. It's magic.
Well, what was that line from Lucy Lawless? Anytime you notice something like that, a wizard did it.
That's right. A wizard did it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Catra, but I want to couch the conversation thusly. Well, as I said, the reason why I was interested in watching this show was because there were corners of the universe that were up in arms about the show being gay positive. And, my dad always has a dog in the hunt when it comes to gay rights. I tend to want them to have rights, but I don't fight for it necessarily. But I do become very interested when you have people of alternate sexualities in media, and then there's a group standing up to oppose it, because I'm like, what exactly are you opposed to? So that's what kind of drew me to this show. I wanted to see what all the hubbub was all about. So here's what the wiki says. Under LGBT representation, which is apparently what pissed people off in the first place for some strange reason. The creators indicated prior to release that the series would provide LGBT representation. Tor.com commented that the series reads as utterly queer in just about every aspect. I'm going to come back to that statement because I want your opinion on it.
Gladly, because I've got one.
So the series reads as utterly queer in just about every aspect, with many characters coded as fluid in terms of gender or sexuality, and none as clearly heterosexual. Well, that I do agree with. The first season shows a romantic relationship between two female side characters, Spinnerella and Natasha. Spinnerella being the DJ from Salt and Pepper.
Yeah, again, with the lazy name. The character actually goes, it's in my name, Net Tassa. I toss nets. And I'm sitting there going, so did you think that was clever, or were your parents just psychic, or no, we're just going to talk this up to lazy writing?
I should have named my son Wrestler, because I want him to be a wrestler. And later on, when he becomes a wrestler, it'll make sense. You can go ahead and say I'm a terrible parent. It's fine.
No, I was just going to say, remember the story arc that came from last year about the mother who gave her child a stupid name, and it came back to bite her in the ass when the flight attendants laughed at their boarding passes.
That's right.
You know what? I don't believe that children should be made fun of for something that's out of their control. But at the same time, I look at parents and I go, okay, you have to know this crap is coming. You cannot act shocked when it does.
Right. Sorry. So you have two female side characters who are openly gay, and there are undercurrents of romantic tension in the relationship of Adora and Catra. Oh boy, are there. The 8th episode of the first season, Princess Prom, which sees the two dancing, was inspired by teenage romantic comedies. Okay. First, let's just start off with this. Reeds is utterly queer in just about every aspect. I'm going to open it up here. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, no, there are tomboyish-looking girls and girls that aren't automatically linked to a gentleman in the way of a crush or love. They must automatically be queer. Give me a break. No, seriously, I'm sitting there going, okay, unless he assumes that Glimmer is gay because she's got a short haircut and a stocky build, or he assumes that Adora and... Okay, I'm just going to say this. There is a little bit of a, for lack of a better word, sexual tension between Adora and Catra, but I also see it through the eyes of two best friends. Catra has always looked up to Adora and been jealous of her at the same time. This is, a girl who she pals around with and has known her whole life, but who she's constantly compared to. Yeah, the Shadow Weaver is always like, Catra, why can't you be more like Adora?
Unless I was looking for it, I wouldn't have gotten gay from Catra and Adora. I would have gotten best friends.
Exactly. That's the way I got it, too. I've had best friends who've had that kind of dynamic. I've had girlfriends who we've been kind of the same way. We've been jealous of each other. We looked up to one another. There's a dance scene at the infamous prom episode, but I didn't really see that. I don't know. I sometimes feel like so many people see that if there is some kind of interaction between two people of the same sex and there is not a previously mentioned lover of the opposite sex who is linked to those two characters, then obviously they must be gay. These are the same people who think Rainbow Dash is gay on My Little Pony.
Jesus Christ. I've watched and I've seen the My Little Pony movie, would not have come up with Rainbow Dash is gay, but anyway.
Oh, trust me, I am a full-fledged brony, and I have seen so much crap targeted at Rainbow Dash. It's ridiculous. I have friends who watch this, and they go, so she's a tough little tomboy who's got rainbow hair. I'm like, just shut up.
It's a it's a show about ponies. Ponies.
She's not gay. Hasbro just knows a marketable toy, and kids want to buy things that are colorful. Rainbow.
If you take the girl wearing a tux as iconic gay, right? Okay, they went out of their way then to signal Catra is at least a bi character. But up until the prom episode, I never got that. I never really got that from her. She seemed apathetic. She seemed lazy. She seemed kind of like a bully at times. Never got gay out of that.
I also, the prom episode, again, a lot of people are split on, because when I first saw her in the tux, I did not immediately think, okay, at least bisexual or maybe gay. I thought Catra would rather slit her wrist than show up in a dress.
And that is a perfectly logical place to jump to. It's because I started the sentence with, if you take. There are now. I guarantee you, if we were having a forum full of various women and women of various sexualities, there would be a half a dozen that stood up and said, "Just because I wear a tux doesn't mean I like vagina. Maybe I don't want to wear a dress. Maybe I'm not into it." Which is perfectly valid.
I remember girls going to homecoming, court warming, and prom, not wearing tuxes per se. Again, grew up in the Bible Belt. But I remember some of them wearing like kind of a flashy pantsuit kind of a thing.
Right.
So, because they would never be caught in a dress. And for the record, some of those girls later came out as gay. Some said, nope, I'm straight. So, it's, again, I just looked at it as like, like Catra would ever wear a freaking dress. She'd hate that.
As far as my opinion on the Reeds is utterly queer in just about every aspect, I mean, it's an adventure show. I mean, can an adventure show be utterly queer in every aspect? I guess. And if this is what it looks like, I don't know. You fooled me on a few occasions. To me, I thought I was watching, a tale as old as time, the Resistance fighting the Empire. And you have a someone on the hero's journey. And again, I'll go ahead and say, I'm just a dense male, but I feel like it had to have been more blatant to really push that agenda. If that's what now, if you have like, you know, my good friend Mr. Toxic Masculinity Pat Mullen on here, he might be screaming, "Are you kidding me? This show was completely utterly queer and should be burned at the stake." Okay, it didn't reach me that way, is what I'm trying to tell you. I was more into some of the other aspects of the show.
I said, the only confirmed characters that we saw were gay were Natasha and Spinnerella, and they showed up in 3 episodes, and only one of them they actually had a speaking role.
Right. I think the best person to ask it would be my daughter. You know, can you pick out the gay character? And I guarantee you she's going to say none of them, because I don't. You know, there's nothing in the show that is directly, specifically two women in like the throes of passion, or two men in the throes of passion.
Unfortunately, I do think it goes back to, you mentioned the whole give Elsa a girlfriend thing. I really feel that there is still a stipulation that a fictional female character, unless she is specifically given a man that she has a crush on, that she's in a relationship with, that she's married to, that there is still the stipulation that, there's no man in her life? Maybe she's queer. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just going to say this. I have nothing against queer written characters whatsoever. You write a show and one of your characters is gay, bisexual, transgender, I don't care. Good for you. You've written the character like that. Props to you. Moving on. But I can't stand this constant idea of taking a character who either we know is straight or has no sexual identification whatsoever and saying, well, then let's make them gay. I mean, I'm sorry. I hated all the people who said, when they first saw Force Awakens, they said, let's make Finn and Poe lovers. I'm like, seriously? Or the people who said that Bucky and Captain America should be together.
Well, those people are absolutely right. Because there is no hotter on-screen chemistry than Captain America and Winter Soldier. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, I think I have to disagree, but that's just because I have a gigantic crush on Winter Soldier. He's one of my favorite comic book characters for a reason.
I don't know. I think it's okay to have a crush on somebody who who's gay, who likes a different gender. You can still have a crush on them. It's fine.
But no, I just have a problem with groups who try to force sexual orientation onto characters who do not have sexual orientation. One of the things that I liked about Frozen, and that's not even one of my top 10 favorite Disney movies, mostly because I wanted to put a bullet in my head after listening to Let It Go for the 10th time.
Let me stop you right there. You know nothing of being driven crazy with songs from Frozen until you were a part of this network and had to hear a million times, "Do you want to build a snowman?"
Okay, I'll give you that. But no, one of the things I liked about Elsa was that she didn't need a man or a woman to complete her. She is a very powerful female character. I know we are getting a Frozen sequel, but I don't think Elsa needs a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I like the idea of Elsa saying, I am queen, I rule over this, I do not need romantic entanglement. I am happy with who I am.
Yeah. Man is meant to be a social creature. Whether it's a girl or a boy, I don't know. I approve of giving Elsa a somebody, because, we all need a somebody.
Yeah, like I said, I just like it when we see characters that aren't automatically forced into romantic relationships. I have gotten into huge debates with other people over Zootopia and whether or not Nick and Judy end up together at the end of it.
Interspecies,
Well, again, it's just like, why can't they just be friends? Why do we have to give them romantic relationships? I am not against written romantic relationships. I just don't like shoehorned in romantic relationships. And again, I feel that that's what a lot of people were trying to do with She-Ra, that because they wanted romantic relationships with these characters, they were basically kind of tricking themselves into seeing it.
It's funny. I'm hearing you talk, and somewhere down the line, Jesse and Ronnie are going to hear this show and wait for me to scream out something inappropriate as you're saying, "Why can't this and that happen?" And I'm not doing it because I'm trying to tone that part of myself down tonight. And they're going to find me after they hear the show and be like, "You motherfucker!" Because if it had been one of us, you'd have been. You son of a bitch. So consider yourself lucky, I guess.
Well, again, if these characters have been purposely written to be queer, like Natasha and Spinnerella, there is no harm in that.
No.
But we have not been given any indication. Okay, actually, the only characters that we've actually... There is one character we've seen who is clearly defined, and that's Seahawk.
As being straight.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. The way he's going after Mermissa, I'm pretty sure he's straight.
Or he's way overcompensating, one of the two.
Yeah, but
he brings up a good character. There aren't too many male characters on the show. You've basically got Bo and Seahawk. And now Bo is capable. Bo is, Bo is a good hero and all of that. But Bo is absolutely... what do you call it? Not gender fluid, but sexuality fluid. I can see him as both gay and straight. Now, in the show... I
have to ask, though, do you think part of that is because he's walking around with that heart on his chest? Because... I'm just saying, if you look back at Bo's design from the 1980s series, that's a character you could see leading a gay pride parade any day now.
Well, it's a couple of things. I subscribe to, and this is why I love guys like Pat and and some of the people I podcast with, because I do subscribe that men should act like men, and back when men were men and the sheep were afraid, that sort of thing. And again, a man that does not subscribe to my image of masculinity is still okay by me. I have my preferences. I'm a human being. And Bo definitely, I think, goes against that. Bo, I don't want to speak for women, but I feel like Bo speaks to what women. How do I put this? There's been various TV shows that have dealt with the idea of feminizing men, and here's an example. Family Guy kind of dealt with this. Where Peter is feminized in one episode. I think he might have actually been like overly gay, and for a while there, it's awesome. He's clean. He's taking great care of himself. He's cooking.
But then it starts to go overboard. He basically acts like a militant female. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I think there's this idea that's out there, and it's and it germinates in different ways of women wanting men to be softer, and then more Bo-like, and then sort of looking, and then as Rush Limbaugh once said, then they realize they hate it and they want to go back to the cowboy who stinks.
Yeah.
But I honestly think that's the way Bo is. Now, by the same token, then you have Seahawk, who was an imbecile. Mm-hmm. He's now here you have this over heterosexualized character who can't do anything right, and is kind of a bumbling idiot. And if any one of my male friends were here right now, they'd be screaming about that. I
think part of what appeals to Seahawk is also the princess he's chosen to go after, Mermissa. I do think the comedy dynamic would be different if he was going after Perfuma or one of the other princesses who have a bit more of a personality beside "don't fuck with me."
Do I care that they wrote 50% of the male characters as imbeciles? Not really. If I want to see 100% male character lists not acting like imbeciles, there's plenty of places I can find them. So
it's also the point that She-Ra didn't have a lot of male characters. Mm-hmm. Seahawk and Bo were part of it, and other than that, you had Hordak and a few members of the Horde, but majority of the characters on She-Ra were female.
I'll say Hordak doesn't really have a personality.
Hordak is evil.
I was going to say Hordak might as well have been Sauron from Lord of the Rings, just or even from the Necromancer from the Hobbit movies, just a black cloud just hanging out there in space somewhere.
It'll be interesting if they try to introduce Prime Evil, who was like the level above Hordak in the original series, because Hordak was portrayed as kind of like Skeletor, evil but bumbling. Mm.
Well, when you've got 26 episodes of a show to do, you got to find reasons for your villain to get it wrong. I think we've covered this pretty well. I want to talk about a few other characters here, and then kind of do some last words. I hated the Shadow Weaver character. I thought it was the same note with her every episode until they kind of went sideways with the Entrapta storyline. And then then the Horde became somewhat interesting, at least. But I thought Shadow Weaver was like they were almost going for the over the top villain who does like these monologuing villains. That it's just the same thing every episode. I thought she was one of the least well-written characters on the show, and the only thing that's about that there's even a remote hook for is she's been summarily drummed out of the Horde, but she still has her powers. What kind of revenge does she have for Catra and company in the forthcoming seasons?
Shadow Weaver unfortunately falls prey to a typical writing trope in which they are given no real clear definition of character other than they are evil, so that when you introduce their higher up, you can go, oh crap, they're really evil. Shadow Weaver is basically just meant to show how powerful Hordak is, not by not having any character, just being a driven, one-note evil villain.
I didn't like her.
I liked your voice. I thought that was kind of I did like her voice. It was just very unsettling, and I did like that part.
Yeah, she was voiced by Lorraine Toussaint, who's a Trinidadian American actress. I'm not sure what else she's been in. Let's see here. What else is on your IMDb page, lady? Most recently, her film credits were Fast Color, Love Beats Rhymes, Girls Trip, Sophie in the Rising Sun, The Night Before, Runaway Island, and Selma. Hey, I've heard of Selma.
Yeah, I was going to say, until you got to Selma, I was like, nope, never heard of it, not a niche.
And television, the most recent things she's done are, let's see here, Grace and Frankie, Blackish, Chicago PD, Rosewood. She was V. That's right, she was V in Orange Is the New Black. I knew her from somewhere.
Ah, okay.
All right, I'm gonna kick it over to you. Anything else about the show that you enjoyed, didn't like, thought could have been done better, wanted to talk about?
Well, it's funny. The minute I finished watching the show, I went on Facebook and I started a poll to my friends, and I said, okay, which character is going to be the most popular cosplay in 2019 from this show? Because I knew that we were going to get some of that, but I wanted to hear what everyone said. The most popular vote was for Glimmer, which I can see, but considering that Amethyst from Steven Universe is one of the most popular cosplays from there, and Glimmer has a very similar body type. So I could see a lot of girls who cosplays Amethyst now wanting to cosplay as Glimmer. How the hell they're going to do that hair is beyond me. Actually, I hate to say, that's part of the problem with the animation style, is that it's not flat, but you really don't get a very good definition of certain shapes. And Glimmer's hair, I couldn't
Is that
quite
helmet?
figure... It might as well be, because I couldn't figure out for the life of me how it was styled. I'm like, wait, which part's going up? Which part's going down? What the hell? I think it varied from drawing to drawing. So I'm not sure how they can make that work. Second most popular was She-Ra herself. I personally put forth the vote that the most popular cosplay we're going to see from it will be a duo of Catra and Scorpia. from the prom episode.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
Although
there's going to be a run on lobster claws at the costume shop.
Better than a run on blindfolds.
All right.
I just finished watching Bird Box.
Oh, okay. I haven't.
No, seriously, I'm predicting. Well, I know that there's already the Bird Box challenge in which people are doing everything or everyday tasks wearing blindfolds. To which Netflix has said, "For the love of God, stop," or at least don't sue us. But, actually, no. Now that we started talking more about Ned Thompson and Spinnerella, it wouldn't surprise me if that becomes the most popular duo cosplay. Again, they're not major characters, but they are a very progressive and positive LGBTQ portrayal. I could see this being very popular as we see a lot of girl couples doing Ruby and Sapphire or Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune. I could see it. I could see a lot of those. Not to mention Spinnerella's costume has got to be easier than Scorpia's.
Any predictions for season 2? I think it's been renewed for like 4 seasons, and they've got 4 seasons worth of arcs, 13 episode arcs already sketched out. So when we last left our heroes, they drove back the Horde, but Catra and Hordak had said, you know what, we now know how to make our weapons stronger and what to do. They have Entrapted there doing the science. They certainly have more guns than the Resistance does. So they have lost the battle, but not the war. They've kind of like with Voltron, where Voltron does whatever the plot needs it to do. So it apparently does the entity of She-Ra, where it's left open as to what magics she possesses. So I guess we'll learn more about what all else she can do in the next season. I don't know how many more realms there are for the princesses to for them to gather more princesses or whatever. But we'll see. I'm curious to see. I mean, there's obviously relationship stuff between the characters that we can't predict that they'll deal with, but I am curious. What would you like to see happen? What do you think will happen in the second season?
Well, I know that they've announced that there are a couple of other characters that will be appearing in the next season, including what I'm probably massacring the pronunciation here, Flutterina, who from the 1980s series was basically a cute woman with butterfly wings. Gotta sell it in toys.
Yep.
I am interested to see how many other characters that they can try to bring in, because there are a lot of characters from the 1980 series who have yet to make an appearance.
Let me ask you a quick question. I made my daughter and my son sit down. Well, actually, I made my daughter sit down and watch this. My son will just go wherever me and my daughter are, so he watched it as well. He actually got into it.
That's good.
Obviously your sister is significantly older than my 8-year-old daughter, but has she watched this yet? And if she did, what did she think of it?
No, Haley hasn't watched this yet. I don't think Haley would be interested in this sort of thing. Not that she's against this kind of stuff, but she didn't grow up with the 1980s cartoon, so I think that it misses the realm of the nostalgia for her, and I just don't think it's her cup of tea.
Okay.
So, possibly. I will say, one thing I'm interested to see in this is whether or not we get our He-Man spinoff.
Can you do He-Man in 2018? Let's think about this for a second, right? He-Man is a huge bodybuilder-looking wrestler type. He yells out, "I have the power." It's again, He-Man was a very boy-centric toy. And unless you now, here's the thing: you already have people sort of rolling their eyes at a utterly queer. That's a quote, an utterly queer She-Ra. If you present He-Man as it was in 1985, you run the risk of annoying people who think that that's a terribly outmoded way. That's toxic masculinity at its finest. If you go in another direction with it, you run the risk of annoying the toxic masculinity people, saying, "What have you done to my boy things?"
Well, firstly, we are given a hint of He-Man's existence. The magic word that Adora uses to unlock the temple is Eternia, which, Eagle Eye fans will remember is the name of He-Man's planet.
Right.
Adora, they live on, what is it, Etheria?
Right.
Yeah, that's right. So they already have dropped a hint. Furthermore, I think that they could tie this in with a little bit more backstory about where She-Ra's family is from. The show did not tackle who She-Ra's parents were. The idea is that she was an orphan who was taken in by the Horde and trained. But they didn't bring up the whole, well, wait, who are my parents then? Where did I actually come from? And I could see that being a story arc they'd want to tackle in future seasons. If they do that,
her brother is Prince Adam, and that her parents are that she's from Eternia.
I could see that. Furthermore, they did do another He-Man series where they actually kind of toned down his masculinity a little bit.
See?
It was an early '90s cartoon, I believe.
You can't do that without pissing people off. It's always that funny fine line of you have the traditionalists who want He-Man to stay as WWF looking as humanly possible, and if you
don't you mean WWE? WWF has pandas.
Either way, more He-Man, more panda.
I understand where you're coming from, but I guess I look at how they've reshaped these characters from She-Ra. Again, they have taken all of these characters who look like catwalk supermodels and made them into various different body types, various different personas.
But we're living in an era now where, we're living in the Me Too era. We're living in this era of, I don't want to say propping up women, but because that's not what I'm trying to say. But
no,
we're definitely living in an era of saying, hey, all those years you were misrepresented and mistreated, we are trying to make up for it in 5 minutes. Okay, decades of mistreatment, 5 minutes. We're going to try to fix it. Is that okay? Can we do that? And so I think you can get away with it with a show like She-Ra.
You're saying that we're doing to feminists now what we did to gays in the 90s?
Yes.
Okay.
This reminds me of a Paula Poundstone bit, where she was talking about this is the year of the woman. And she was like, terrific, thanks. We got a year.
I understand where you're coming from, but I still think it's something that I do believe that they're going to try to do. It wouldn't surprise me that, they're not going to start a He-Man spinoff right away, but maybe they wouldn't mind testing the water a little bit by introducing Prince Adam, Eternia, He-Man, and that kick-ass Battle Cat.
I think they can get away with a Prince Adam / He-Man existing within the She-Ra cartoon, so long as he's not the lead. I think if 2-3 seasons from now, if they bring in the cast of He-Man to supplement things and widen the arc, I think you can get away with it, because now now you have the utterly queer She-Ra cartoon with these characters that you're bringing into that world. If you start up a whole new world, however, fresh, and it's anything less than as the aforementioned He-Man that I described, I don't think it works as well. I don't think it works now. I don't think it works in this climate.
How about this? They were building up, but giving Teela as many storylines as He-Man does. Kind of going the same way that the Avatar: The Last Airbender show went, with giving just as much development to Aang as they did to. Oh my God, blank.
I have an important question. If we're gonna prop up Teela and give her as much screen time as her male counterpart, does she still wear the snake breastplate?
Oh God, I'm not even touching that one. I'm not gonna lie. You're talking about how they would design He-Man, whether or not he looked like his classic 1980s WWE persona. I'm a professional artist, and I couldn't even begin to just have an idea of how to redesign He-Man that would both please nostalgic fans and appeal to today's modern-day audience. I have no clue other than maybe just put on some damn pants.
No, well, I think you'd have to go with the Drax look. Because, whether people picked up on it or not, Drax has already poked fun at the whole He-Man thing. Why aren't you wearing your vest or your shield cannon or whatever the hell it was?
I have sensitive nipples, yes.
Sensitive nipples.
Even though he has to wear the cordite battle harness because it amplified his strength in the original series.
Yeah, wow.
Thank you, Screw Attack's Death Battle.
All right. Have we sufficiently beaten this into the ground?
We keep getting distracted and talking about other TV shows, so I guess yes.
It's like, hey, I listened to this podcast. It was supposed to be about She-Ra. They did 20 minutes on He-Man. Those fuckers.
I still stand by it. If I'm putting down a prediction, I don't know if He-Man would get a spin-off or not, but I do believe that maybe not in the next season, but in the season after, at least in one of these upcoming seasons, we will get a story arc where Adora tries to figure out where her birth parents are, and we are going to see Eternia and Prince Adam. And for the record, I was right about the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
You were. Props to you, Alexis. You put my mansplaining ass to shame.
It's like, sorry, I'm just going to say it. I normally suck at predicting stuff, but everything I've predicted on this show has come true.
Ah, maybe you're the intern that's been listening all these years. All right.
No, I'm just a pretty aware geek.
All right. I think that's it. Like I said, overall, look, it's an inoffensive show. It's. I don't think it has the gravitas that Voltron has. Voltron's still, to me, one of the best written animated shows of the modern slew of animated shows that are out there. But She-Ra was fine. Like I said, I feel like, first of all, I'm not the audience for this show, so the fact that I even tolerate it, I think, is a miracle. But but my 8-year-old daughter and my 4-year-old son just thought it was Jim Dandy, and it held their interest. And I think that's all the people that wrote the damn show could ask for. So, bully for She-Ra, and of course we'll do this again when the forthcoming seasons come out, as well as Sabrina and all the other shows that Alexis and I like to talk about. So,
like I said, props to the designers for creating a show that definitely captivated the attention of nostalgic viewers like me, and an old friend of mine from high school who, when I posted the poll, actually showed a photo of her She-Ra figures, which she still has. Which I wrote, holy hell, how long have you had those things?
All right, so with that said, we'll bring a close to this TV party tonight. Next week, it's all Judgment Night all week long. We've got, we're going to do a commentary for the Judgment Night movie. We're going to review the soundtrack, and then we're going to put the damn thing on trial. The following week, on Source Material, we'll be discussing the new Teen Titans, as written by Marv Wolfman. And then Alexis and Ronnie Adams and Jesse Starcher and God knows who else will be on. That's January 15th. They'll be on a TV party tonight discussing the new Greg Berlanti. I said Berlansky the last time I did this. Greg Berlanti, Arrowverse, DC Universe show, Titans, a.k.a. Fuck Batman. Fuck him right in the ass.
I mentioned this before the show started. I got our schedule mixed up, and I thought we were discussing Titans tonight and She-Ra next week. To which I got sent a message going, hey, ready to discuss She-Ra? To which I paused and I said, you mean I binge-watched Titans in 2 days for no freaking reason?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's like that's a pain that's gonna linger.
As far as more movies and TV, we've got a Damn You Hollywood for Glass by M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, and then Mr.
Sorry, I love it when you say that. That just always makes me laugh.
And then Mr. Toxic Masculinity himself. He's everywhere you look. He's going to come on a TV party tonight to discuss Fuller House Season 4, because we love the 80s, even when it's in the 2018-19s.
Say clearly, we're talking about She-Ra and He-Man. Of course we do.
Indeed. And then finally, we close out January with a TV party tonight for Runaway Season 2. And then Andrew Graham and his lovely wife, the other woman who isn't afraid to come on the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network, will be discussing The Crown Season 2. Plus, we've got a whole slew of Metal Hammer of Dooms and accompanying comic book shows on source material. And at least for the time being, we've got the 401 Ground and Pound radio show, but that may be going away in the near future. We'll have more on that in the weeks to come. All right, I hear you make and sell shit. Why don't you talk about it?
Thank you very much. Honeysuckle Rose Creations. My company is making unique handmade jewelry, intersection of geek and chic. We just wrapped up our big holiday season and holiday sale. We actually had a thing going where every order that was placed we would donate $5 to Children's Mercy here in Kansas City. I need to do a final tally on that, but I am happy to say that was a success. So it's definitely something we're probably going to be repeating in the future. But for right now, we've got a couple of months off until our next Comic-Con convention. We're actually not making an appearance in public until the end of March, when we'll be at Planet Comic-Con here in Kansas City. That's our home show. Always happy to go back to that. So in the meantime, I'm the lead designer. I'm breaking out Illustrator and Photoshop, and I'm working on some new designs for some new pieces. We're adding to our keychain designs for adding Game Boy Advance and Nintendo Switch cartridges. We're adding more Pokemon hair barrettes because some people just really want to wear a Togepi in their head. I don't know why.
You going to do any She-Ra stuff?
I'm actually looking at that. I need to get a better idea of how I would work it. We just got an idea, I was mentioning this earlier, for a Darkwing Duck themed line that we're going to be working on. Listen, viewers, I wouldn't mind your input on this. Tell me, when you think Darkwing Duck, do you think Gizmo Duck, or is Gizmo Duck more closely related to DuckTales? It's been a while since I've watched the original shows. I know that Gizmo Duck made appearances in both, but with the new DuckTales season, I know that he is more closely related to that. So I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not he should be included. So, hey, if you got an opinion, let me know. I would love the feedback. Again, Honeysuckle Rose Creations. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We have stores open on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon.
All right. Always a pleasure talking with Alexis Hana of Honeysuckle Rose Creations.
You didn't massacre my name again. Yay!
I'm really trying. Thinking is hard. So again, you've heard all the plugs. Tune in when something strikes your fancy. Until then, for Alexis Hana of Honeysuckle Rose Creations, this is your mandated reporter and frankly unmortified Mr. Mark Rattledge. Be well, be safe, and behave.